Hello everyone. Today we're going to look at how to subtract mixed numbers. Alright, and I'll tell you what, we're going to start with kind of an easier one because we're going to do one on just, it's not quite subtracting mixed numbers. You'll see what I mean here in a second. So let's say I have 7 minus 2 and 3/4. In our last video on adding, I talked about how in your book or on the test, these often will be written horizontally, okay, sideways. But the first thing you want to do when you do this is write them vertically. Copy them down on your paper vertically like I have here. Then you want to draw a line dividing your whole numbers and your fractions, okay? Now from this point, and this is what I was kind of getting at the beginning there, is the first number 7 isn't a mixed number, it's just a whole number, but it's being subtracted by a mixed number. Okay, so what we have to do in this case, okay, before we took wholes from the addition of the fractions and we added them to the whole side. Well, now we have to borrow from the whole side over to fractions. So I have nothing in the fractions, but I have to subtract 3/4. So I'm going to take one whole, the 7 turns into a 6, and that one whole becomes 4/4. Now I have 4/4 minus 3/4 equals 1/4. And then I have 6 minus 2 equals 4. I know usually we think of the second half of our 4 operations as a harder one. You know, for some reason we think subtraction is harder than addition, division is harder than multiplication. But in this case with mixed numbers, I almost feel like the subtraction is easier just because you don't have to worry about going over a whole and then taking a whole out and adding it over. It seems more natural to us to just borrow from the wholes and turn it into a fraction, whether that's 4/4, 8/8, 7/7, whatever we're working with. So here's our first problem. Okay, and so our final answer is 4 and 1/4. Okay, so I borrowed from the 7 and brought it over and turned it into 4/4, and then I was able to subtract. Let's go ahead and look at another problem now. This one I promise I will do as a mixed number. Alright, let's say we have 3 and 2/9 minus 2 and 4/9. Write it vertically, draw your dividing line. Now, I go to do 2/9 minus 4/9. I can't do, so I borrow from the 3. The 3 becomes a 2, and I add 9/9 up here. Now, before we didn't have anything to add, but we have to add it now, okay? So 2/9 plus 9/9 is 11/9. And now I can do 11/9 minus 4/9. Okay, so 11/9 minus 4/9 is 7/9. And I have 2 minus 2 is 0. So my final answer for this one is actually just 7/9. Alright, I do realize, and actually I was just thinking about this, let me show you one where you don't have to borrow or carry at all. These are very easy, but you should see one. And I noticed that I didn't do one for addition. I might squeeze one in here. Let's say I have 3 and 4/5 minus 1 and 2/5. Alright, well 4/5 minus 2/5 I can do. So this is just 2/5. 3 minus 1 then is 2. So this is just an example of if I don't have to borrow what I can look like. And I'm going to cheat here real quick, and I'm just going to sneak in an addition problem as well. So let's say I had 4 and 1/8 plus 2 and 4/8. This is just another example, this time addition, of if you don't have to borrow or carry at all, okay, because you don't go over one whole or you don't have to subtract and need to borrow. So for this addition, 1/8 plus 4/8 is 5/8, and 4 plus 2 is 6. So the very simple, very quick answer of 6 and 5/8. Just an example of when you don't have to rearrange a whole out of the fraction side, or in subtraction when you don't need to borrow from the wholes. Okay, so I just want to show you that. Let's do one more subtraction problem and then we will say we are good for the day. Alright, so for subtraction, let's say we have 7 and 6/10 minus 4 and 9/10. We write it vertically. We draw our line down separating them. I cannot do 6/10 minus 9/10. Okay, so I have to borrow from the 7. The 7 becomes a 6, and I add 10/10, which gives me 16/10. So when I do 16/10 minus 9/10, I actually end up with 7/10. Then I have 6 minus 4, and that gives me 2. So my final answer for this problem is 2 and 7/10. Now I'm just going to pretend for a second. Let's say my final answer was 2 and 6/10. Well, 6/10 I know I have to simplify because that is not in simplest forms. So I should, at the very end, reduce it to 2 and 3/5. So just be ready if you have to, be checking your answers after you add or subtract, and make sure that your fraction is in simplest form. Now if a mixed number, and if you're asked to put in simplest form, you don't have to change anything with the whole number. You're just looking at the fraction side there. Alright, thank you so much guys. I hope these videos are helping, and I will see you again soon.